I'm going to be honest. Getting a job sucks right now. I'm really lucky that I'm not on the market in any traditional sense. Now that I run my own company, I have the YouTube channel, and I do a lot of advising for other companies. The more I see it from the perspective both of people hiring as well as people looking for a new job or even their first job, the market is in a weird and really scary state. I've never seen it quite like this before, especially with the layoffs. And it's not that senior engineers don't have jobs or opportunities, it's that they're now competing for positions they weren't before. And the desperation to find engineers on the company side isn't quite what it used to be either. What happened? We could go in depth on the economic state of things, the interest rates changing, and the reasons why companies are being tighter with their budgets. But there's plenty of other YouTubers doing that better than I would. Companies are tightening their spend, both short-term and long-term. And if you've never run a team or a company before, you might not know this, but the vast majority of spend for the vast majority of companies with engineers is the engineers. Because their salaries are big, their benefits are bigger, offices are expensive, filling them with people is expensive, and no service you're paying for costs as much as most of the teams at your company. And when you're talking upwards of like $200,000 to $400,000 per person, having fewer of them is really beneficial. But what if you're a new engineer? Your salary is going to be a lot smaller, right? Even in the US markets, it's like 80 to 110K. Yeah, after benefits and everything, we're closer to like 120 to 130. And junior engineers take so long to onboard that you're not getting much value out of that money initially. In fact, new engineers often have to be onboarded, which means time's being spent by other engineers that could be spent on the product instead being spent helping someone else get faster. If I had a team with 4 people on it and I hired a junior eng, productivity is going to go down by 10 to 20% when they join, period. And after some amount of time, we might go up and be a little bit closer to like 120% of the previous productivity. So a little bump in the positive direction, but it takes a while to get there. It's also a gamble because not all junior engineers will ever figure it out. It's not because they're bad. It's because the environment might not be the right place for them to learn. The tech stack might not jive with them or their interests. They might just be in a weird place in life that makes it harder for them to produce. And as such, it's harder to make these gambles. It's a really challenging bet to make to say, hey, we're going to pull this person in and our team's going to move slower for a bit. But if it works out, we might move slightly faster for only $140,000 a year. That's really scary. And as a result, fewer companies are making those bets and instead choosing to spend their money on guaranteed wins. What's a guaranteed win in this market and in this industry? I'd make the argument that the closest thing we have to a guaranteed win is a team where things are going well, where the people on the team know others from other companies that they've worked with in the past and know the capabilities of that they can pull in to do specific, understood, earmarked work. If we are working on a front-end product and we need the back-end to be changed, but we don't have a person to contribute to that back-end on our team, and it exists at another team at the company, but I know somebody who has worked with the people who built that back-end, who already knows the language, who knows the framework, who knows all the things they're doing, and I've worked with them in the past, and I trust them as a coworker, I could vouch for them on my team as a person to bring in. And at that point, their previous role and title barely matters, their degree doesn't matter, their GitHub doesn't matter. What matters is I brought trust to the table. And that's the thing the vast majority of new developers are missing when they're hunting for jobs. They don't have trust yet. It's really, really hard to build trust as a new developer in the industry. There's a lot of things that help with trust, like quality experience at other companies, like coworkers that can vouch for you. This is why referrals and recommendations on things like LinkedIn are so valuable. But in the end, the only way you're going to get a job right now is if you have some amount of trust to build on top of. How you build that is hard. You can go through contributions on GitHub. You can prove your high scores on Leet Code. But the best thing you can do, by far, is make friendships and connections with other people in the industry. This is the real reason I push going to college. It's not about having a degree, although obviously having that on your resume makes you a little more trustable. It's the connections you make with other people who might make those other connections at other places. I can't tell you how many times I'm the linking factor between some person getting their first job and some company that doesn't want to hire another engineer that takes 2 years to train. And I'll be honest, a lot of the junior engineers in this community don't need much time to be trained. Y'all kill it. There are some really talented younger folk in this community, and I can confidently recommend you to companies that wouldn't normally hire somebody under 25. And yes, that job listing up on LinkedIn or whatever might say 25 plus. It might say senior on it. It might even say principal on it. They're saying that because those titles are an exchange they have made. They're willing to spend more money to have less risk. But that doesn't always mean anything. What they're looking for is less risk and more trust. And finding ways to provide that, primarily through connections with others, is the best win you can have. So surround yourself with other engineers that are at where you're at. Some will go faster, some will go slower. Some of them will find really cool opportunities. And the more you stay in touch with them, the more likely you are to find those opportunities yourself. I can't recommend just cold applying to a bunch of jobs. It might be good practice, but it's going to give you the wrong signals because you're going to fail a lot of interviews. That's the nature of the field. But this isn't about interviews. This isn't about your resume. This is about how you've proven yourself in an industry that isn't looking to make bets anymore. And when the market changes the way it has, the willingness of these companies to take risk and make bets has gone down a ton. And it's important to recognize how risky of a bet you are as an engineer. If you have 5 years working at Netflix or Amazon, you're a much less risky bet than somebody who just graduated from school and has 2 projects on their GitHub. But if one of those projects is used by somebody on the team you're interviewing with, that risk goes away immediately. So think deeply about how you've proven yourself and the relationships you have, and what it would take to make more of those. If you don't have an in-person group to hang out with that also codes and is also learning with you, find some online. There's lots of really cool communities, people in things like Twitter Spaces, people in our very own Discord, which you can join with the link in the description. There are so many opportunities to network and meet the other people who you can build this trust with. But it's so important to understand that that is the core of hiring right now. And that's the thing you probably don't have if you're struggling to find a job. So go network, make friends, don't go at this alone. The myth of the solo programmer who goes to a really nice school, cold applies to 10 companies and gets offers from 2 of them just isn't as much a thing anymore. And God, don't get me started on internships right now. What do you think? How's your experience been trying to hunt for a job? If you want to hear more about growing as an engineer, I'll pin a video in the corner here all about that. And if you're not interested, you've already seen it, YouTube thinks you'll like the video below it. Thank you guys as always. Appreciate y'all a ton. Peace, nerds.